Between roughly 500 BCE and 500 CE, people on Peru's desert plain made hundreds of giant geoglyphs by scraping dark stones away from lighter ground. That is the first clue. The Nazca lines are not painted. They are not carved deep like trenches. They are surface drawings made by removing weathered reddish gravel, so the pale soil beneath becomes visible. Within the first 20 seconds, the mystery already changes shape. The question is not, could ancient people make them? The confirmed method is simple enough to understand. The harder question is why a desert society spent generations turning the ground into birds, spiders, monkeys, long straight lines, trapezoids, spirals, and paths that still survive in one of the driest landscapes on Earth. Were these maps, calendars, ritual roads, messages to gods? Or are modern viewers forcing one explanation onto a landscape that may have held several meanings at once? The UNESCO World Heritage Area sits on the arid coastal plain of southern Peru, about 400 kilometers south of Lima, across the Nazca and Palpa region. This is not a green valley covered by ruins. It is a harsh, open desert surface where the ground itself became the artifact. UNESCO describes the protected landscape as covering hundreds of square kilometers, with lines and figures spread across the pampas and river basin plains. That scale matters because the Nazca lines are not one picture. They are a system. Some figures are famous because they photograph well from the air: the hummingbird, spider, monkey, condor, whale, tree, and hands. But the larger mystery includes kilometers of straight lines, rectangles, triangles, spirals, cleared areas, and pathways that do not behave like one single artwork. To investigate Nazca properly, we have to stop treating it as a postcard and start treating it like a landscape archive. The making process is confirmed in broad terms. Builders removed the darker surface stones and exposed lighter ground beneath. In some places, stones were pushed to the edges, making borders that increased the contrast. No lasers are needed. No alien aircraft are needed. Simple tools, rope, stakes, planning, and organized labor can explain the physical act of making large designs. That does not make the work easy. It makes it more impressive. Because the builders had to think at landscape scale without seeing the finished image the way a drone sees it today, they had to transfer forms from plan to ground, keep lines straight over distance, maintain proportions, and repeat the work across generations. The desert helped preserve the result. Low rainfall, extreme aridity, and relatively stable surfaces allowed shallow markings to last far longer than they would in a wetter place. So the first confirmed story is human skill plus desert preservation. The remaining mystery is purpose. One popular claim says the Nazca lines must have been made for someone looking down from the sky. That is disputed. Yes, aerial photography made the figures world famous in the 20th century. From above, the scale becomes obvious and the animal forms snap into view. But the lines are not invisible from the ground. Some can be seen from nearby foothills or from raised viewpoints. More importantly, many geoglyphs may not have been designed primarily as pictures for distant viewers. Some could have functioned as paths, some as ritual spaces, some as markers in a sacred landscape. The airview argument is powerful because it feels cinematic, but it can mislead us into thinking the only possible audience was overhead. The better question is not who flew over them. The better question is who walked them, watched them from edges, gathered around them, or used them during ceremonies tied to land, water, and sky. The modern fame of Nazca owes a great deal to aerial viewing and to the researchers who documented and protected the site. Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia Zesp reported lines in the 1920s after seeing them from nearby hills. Later, Paul Kosak studied the area from the air while researching ancient irrigation. Then Maria Reich, a German-born mathematician and archaeologist who lived in Peru, devoted decades to mapping, measuring, explaining, and protecting the lines. Her role is confirmed and important. Her best-known interpretation is more debated. Reich argued that some lines related to astronomy, calendars, or celestial alignments. That idea helped the world pay attention, but later research has challenged simple one-to-one astronomical explanations. This is a good example of how Mystery Atlas should read evidence. Confirmed, Reich helped preserve and popularize Nazca. Disputed, the idea that the entire site is mainly an astronomical calendar. Interpretive, some alignments and sky meanings may still have mattered as part of a larger ritual system. The famous animal figures are only part of the archive, but they are the emotional doorway into it. A hummingbird stretches across the desert with a long beak. A spider appears with thin legs. A monkey curls into a spiral tail. Birds, insects, plants, and other stylized forms appear beside shapes that are less obviously representational. UNESCO groups the geoglyphs into living creatures, stylized plants, imaginary beings, and geometric figures that can run for kilometers. That variety tells us something important. If all the lines were built for one single technical purpose, the animal figures are hard to explain. If all the figures were merely art, the long straight lines and track-like forms are hard to explain. Nazca may not be one puzzle with one answer. It may be a cultural system where image, movement, ritual, memory, and landscape were layered together over time. In the Nazca Desert, water is not background detail. It is survival. That is why many modern interpretations connect the lines with water, fertility, pilgrimage, mountains, and ritual practice. The confirmed part is the environment. This is an arid region where managing and symbolizing water would have mattered deeply. The interpretive part is how each geoglyph functioned. Some researchers have suggested that lines could mark ritual paths, processional routes, or symbolic connections to water sources and sacred mountains. Others connect imagery of birds, plants, and animals with fertility or rain-invoking ceremonies. This theory is stronger than the alien version, because it grows out of the landscape and culture instead of ignoring them. But it still needs caution. We should not pretend every line has been decoded. The honest version is this: water and ritual are plausible keys, not a complete translation. Some Nazca markings look less like pictures and more like places people moved through. UNESCO's description includes track-like forms that appear suited to large numbers of people. That opens a different possibility. Maybe some lines were meant to be walked, not just viewed. Imagine a ceremony where the act of moving along a cleared path mattered more than seeing the whole design from above. The body becomes part of the drawing, the desert becomes a stage, the line becomes a route between human communities and sacred forces. This helps explain why the site can feel confusing to modern viewers. We keep asking, what is the picture? Ancient users may also have asked, where does this path take us? What ritual does it perform? What memory does it keep alive? That does not solve Nazca. It makes the mystery more human. The alien runway claim is famous, but it is weak. It usually begins with a real observation: some Nazca lines are extremely long and straight. Then it jumps to a dramatic conclusion: they must be landing strips for ancient aircraft. That leap is not supported by archaeological evidence. There are no confirmed ancient machines, no launch infrastructure, no material trace of aircraft, and no reason to ignore the known human method of making the lines. The claim also misunderstands the surface. A shallow scraped line in desert gravel is not a practical runway. The alien theory survives because it is visually simple and emotionally loud. It takes a complex human landscape and replaces it with one clean sci-fi answer. But the evidence points the other way. Nazca is not less interesting when we remove aliens. It becomes more interesting because people made it. Nazca is not a closed case. In 2024, researchers from Yamagata University and IBM reported that artificial intelligence helped identify 303 previously unknown figurative geoglyphs in the Nazca region. That is a major update because it shows the archive is still expanding. Many of these newer finds are smaller relief-type figures, including human and animal forms, and they may have been connected to paths, everyday scenes, or ritual communication in ways that differ from the giant line-type figures. This matters for the mystery. If researchers are still finding hundreds of figures with modern tools, then older theories based only on the most famous geoglyphs may be too narrow. Nazca is not just a set of giant symbols visible from tourist flights. It is a dense visual and ritual landscape that modern technology is only beginning to map with full attention. The same thing that makes the Nazca lines astonishing also makes them fragile. They are surface features. A tire track, foot traffic, road work, erosion, or uncontrolled access can damage marks that survived for centuries. UNESCO notes that the desert climate helped preserve the geoglyphs, but human activity has still caused harm in some sectors, including damage related to the Pan American Highway crossing the property. That is why the story cannot be only mystery entertainment. Nazca is evidence. It is also heritage under pressure. Every viral retelling should make viewers more careful, not more reckless. It is documented claims, maps, labels, source cards, and a clear distinction between confirmed fact, disputed claims, and interpretation. So what are the Nazca Lines? Confirmed, they are ancient geoglyphs on Peru's arid coastal plain, made largely by removing dark surface stones to reveal lighter ground. Confirmed, they include animals, plants, imagined forms, geometric figures, and kilometers of lines. Confirmed, the landscape was used and developed over a long span by pre-Hispanic societies, with strong evidence of ritual and symbolic importance. Disputed, the idea that the whole site is a perfect astronomical calendar. Disputed, the alien runway claim. Interpretive, water ritual, processions, pilgrimage, social memory, and sky meanings may all explain parts of the system. The most responsible answer is not one magic key. Nazca was probably a human-made sacred landscape with multiple functions across time. That answer is less clickbait than aliens, but it is much richer. It gives the achievement back to the people who made it. If you could run one investigation at Nazca, what would you test first? The soil scraping method, the water routes, the walking paths, the astronomical alignments, or the newly found AI-detected geoglyphs? Tell me your best evidence in the comments. And stay with Mystery Atlas for the next case where a famous mystery gets rebuilt from proof, not just atmosphere.